Just a quick update, the Patreon page is now live. The link will be down below if you want to check it out. You'll have access to all of my betting packages and much more. Thanks again for all the support, but for now, let's get into the video. Yo, what's up guys? We're back again. We're going to be doing another full card breakdown video for the UFC. This is going to be a decent card, pretty good main event with Kevin Holland and Brunson coming in here. And both these guys, they've been talking back and forth. They've had, a little bit of a beef. So it's, good to see them finally get in the cage and settle it. But like always, we're going to go from the first fight to the last fight. And just before I get this video started, I just want to, give a big shout out to everyone that subscribed, everyone that watches the videos, that likes the videos. And, let's try to get 300 likes on this video. That's what I want the goal to be on this one. So hopefully we can get there, 300 likes. So make sure to hit that like button if you're watching the video. I would really appreciate it, and it really helps out. But, moving right along to this first fight of the night with JP Buys taking on Bruno Silva. This is a fight with, a guy in JP Buys that's going to have a pretty decent size advantage in my opinion. But, the fight is at flyweight, so both these guys are going to have to cut weight. And, Buys, he earned a controversial win against Jacob Silva in his last fight. I guess it was still enough to earn him a UFC contract. He caught the guy in a guillotine, but, he wasn't out. The referee thought he was out, stopped the fight prematurely. But Buys is a young guy. He's already accomplished a lot. He earned the bantamweight and flyweight title in EFC in South Africa. This is going to be the best fighter that he's fought, probably outside of Joby Sanchez, who he did lose to. And I believe that Bruno is better than Joby Sanchez. But Bruno Silva, he's not had a good run in the UFC. He's gone 0-2-1, and this is his last chance to get a win. But he has been fighting some high-level competition, and this is a step down from the guys like Tagir Ulanbekov, David Dvorak, and he's not been performing terribly in those fights either. He's definitely a decent fighter, comes out of fight ready, trains with good guys. For JP Buys on the feet, he's real explosive. He moves around a lot. He definitely has some pretty good movement, and he does a good job of landing his crosses. He'll switch stances, nice kicks. He has pretty heavy straights, overhands, and, he'll mix in some nice uppercuts as well. But really, Buys, on the feet, he's okay. He's not a great striker. He doesn't really like getting pressured. He's more good when he can be on the outside, kind of dictate the pace, make it a pretty fight. And, in this fight, I think Bruno Silva is going to have the edge on the feet after the first round, because Buys does slow down a little bit with the movement, become a little bit more hittable. But, he's super fast level changes. He's an excellent wrestler, man. He was on the South African wrestling team, and you could tell he's been grappling a long time. He'll hit these belly-to-belly suplexes, really good back takes, and he's a aggressive submission hunter, real good arm triangles, good rear naked chokes, good ground and pound, and he likes to quickly take guys out. But you don't see that, in his tendency to go really fast, he does kind of slow down in fights, gas out. I think that he cuts a lot of weight too. And, he's had fights on the Contender Series with Joby Sanchez where he got tired and, ended up getting submitted with an arm triangle. Had another fight with Gamzat Magomedov where, Magomedov and him showed off a lot of good wrestling scrambles. They went back and forth, but eventually Buys did slow down. He got hit with the elbow to the back of the head, and, he kind of was able to get out of the fight that way because he got a disqualification win. But to me, that fight wasn't going good for him either. And you see in certain fights where guys make JP Buys work in the grappling department, he does slow down. He's one of these guys that wants to get the back, dominate early. And Bruno Silva, he showed that he's a pretty good grappler. He trains with a lot of good guys. And on the feet, Silva's a decent striker as well. He has good movement. He switches stances, good feints, good low kicks, powerful overhand right, good straight right as well. He likes to rip the body with some nice hooks, and he's pretty aggressive. Closes that distance. He is a bit of a winger, but he has power. And, if he connects, he can probably put you down. He struggled a lot with the jab of Tagir Ulanbekov. And, that's something that JP Buys, I believe, is going to maybe try to do here. But, Tagir was much taller, had a much bigger, reach. And I don't know if he's going to be as effective with that as Tagir was. But Bruno's a good kicker as well. He has good front kicks, good round kicks to the body. He dropped David Dvorak with the front kick to the face. He'll throw spinning kicks, spinning back fists. And he definitely has power. A little bit wild, but I feel like his striking could definitely match JP and probably exceed JP in the later rounds. And he's a good grappler as well. I mean, he trains with Henry Cejudo. He has Eric Arbalarcine in his corner, one of the best wrestling coaches in MMA, and he digs underhooks well. He has good control against the fence, nice knees. He has good trips, good body locks, and he has pretty good double leg takedowns as well. He on the top is very aggressive. He has good ground and pound. He really does a good job of passing and getting into the mount or getting the back. Good rear naked chokes. He has good takedown defense as well. Good get ups. And he was able to really scramble, hit takedowns, defend takedowns, and have a really entertaining back-and-forth fight with one of the better grapplers in the division in Tagir Ulanbekov. And his sprawl looked really nice. I think that could come to play in this fight. And if he can get heavy on the head, circle to the back after the sprawl, I could see him getting a rear naked choke. We have seen Silva lose that way Bays lose that way in the past. Silva has shown good cardio, and I do think that he has a big advantage in that area over JP Bays. And the line is kind of moving down here. You saw earlier in the week you could got him Bruno Silva at like a plus 175, plus 160. Now he's all the way down to a plus 130, and I agree with that line movement because even though Bruno Silva hasn't been successful in the UFC, he's had good performances, and I was impressed with him. 7 of Bays' 8 fights, including 6 of his wins came in the first round, and he definitely slows down after that. He has 3 wins after the first round. 1 did come via 4th round finish, but another fight, like I said, he got the win because of the illegal shot to the back of the head, so technically only has 2 wins. We've seen in bouts that Bays fought against grapplers that made him work for takedowns and could scramble. He kind of struggled. He lost to Joby Sanchez. He, gassed out against Gamzat Magomedov. And to me, on the feet early, Bays is going to be explosive. He's going to have some nice crosses, good head kicks, and he will look to take down Bruno, take his back, and finish him. But I feel like Bruno's proven to be no easy out. I think he's going to be competitive on the feet, land hard calf kicks, wing bombs. He's going to be able to be a good grappler and show his grappling skills in his own right. And early on, Bays maybe will win a few exchanges, but I think eventually the jiu-jitsu, the scrambling ability of Bruno will start to take over. I see him getting into dominant positions, doing work, and I think Bays, being the elite wrestler, will even be taken down by the end of the fight a few times just because Bruno gets him tired and scrambles and then is able to take him down. If the same Bruno that fought Tagir Ulanbekov shows up here, I just think he's going to finish Bays. The level of competition for Bays in comparison to Silva has been super low as well, so I just got to go with Bruno Silva here. I think he's going to get it done and get his first UFC win. Moving along to the second fight of the night, where we have 2 girls who disappointed in their last outings in the UFC. Julija Avila, she went in there as a big favorite with Sijara Eubanks, got tired, got out-grappled, dominated, and eventually lost the decision in that fight. And you see Julija Stoliarenko came into the UFC at a big spot against Yana Kunitskaya and couldn't deliver anything. I mean, she just got controlled against the cage. Very boring fight. But, in this one, it should be interesting on the feet because both these girls are super aggressive. They like to close the distance and go to work. I do think Avila is a way more technical striker. She hits harder. Julija, she closes the distance with straights, overhands, has some wild kicks. And she does have some really nice elbows, which I believe in the clinch she's going to have to try to throw those elbows and cut Avila because that could change the fight. That could even get a stoppage potentially. But I do feel like she's very hittable. She darts in with her hands down. Super tough, but she's been TKO'd twice in her career. And, I just feel like in this fight with Julija Avila, if she runs into a big shot from Avila, Avila has proven to be a big hitter. She has some pretty big hooks. She has big knees in the clinch. She has pretty explosive, ability to close the distance, good overhands. And I feel like on the feet, she's going to have an advantage. The only thing about this fight is Avila is a girl that likes to grapple, likes to get in the clinch, mix it up. And, if she does that, she has to just be very weary of that flying armbar, Julija pulling guard, because we've seen Julija, almost all of her wins are armbar wins. So she kind of has that one trick in the bag. But other than that, I just feel like Julija Avila, even if she can go to the ground, just pass her guard, maybe she'll be successful there. But I wouldn't even worry about that. I would just either keep it at range, just try to piece her up, or If you feel like you can be successful in the clinch, controlling her against the cage like Kunitskaya did, kneeing her to the body, elbowing her, then do that. But just got to be very wary, because Julija, even though she's not a very skilled girl in terms of all areas of MMA, she's a specialist. She's proven to be dangerous, and if you fall into that armbar, you fall into her full guard. She does have a chance to finish you. So just respect that about Julija, and you should get the win. So I'm going to go with Julija Avila to pick up the victory, bounce back, and get another win in the UFC. And up next year, we have a get-back fight for Montel Jackson, in my opinion, where he's been kind of an up-and-down guy in the UFC, flashed a lot of potential in certain fights, where got in quick finishes over tough guys like Brian Kelleher. But then when he faces real good grapplers, for instance, like Ricky Simone, or in his last fight more recently, Brett Johns, he just gets out-grappled, dominated, out-hustled. Seems like he kind of has a lack of wanting to go, kind of like a Manel Cape, even though I feel like Jackson obviously has proven himself a lot more at the UFC level than Cape, but just not a willingness to throw as much as he needs to. And, he's coming in here, though, against an opponent in Jesse Strader, who's making his UFC debut, only has 6 pro fights, and, really has beaten no one of note. I mean, all of his wins are against low-level competition. But it is cool to see these guys from Combate Americas coming over, getting signed to the UFC these days. They're very entertaining. Obviously, we saw Marcelo Rojo last week go in there and put on, one of the fights of the year against Charles Jourdain. We have another girl from Combate Americas that's gotten signed that's going to fight on this card later on as well that I'm going to talk about. But Jesse Strader, he's a big underdog for a reason. I mean, he's going to be at a big reach disadvantage, height disadvantage, and he's a striker. He's a guy that will go to the grappling. He'll wrestle a little bit, but mediocre wrestler. And Montel Jackson, even though he's gotten, taken down or controlled in the clinch against some high-level grinders, he's proven that he can wrestle himself. He has, real good wrestling skills. And his striking, in my opinion, is on another level in terms of his speed, his straight punches down the middle, his athleticism, his combinations. Jesse Strader, he's a dangerous striker because he is kind of shifty, and he has some speed himself where he likes to close the distance with these big hooks to the body, come up to the head, and, in the pocket, he'll even explode into the shots that same way, and has a weird rhythm to the way that he strikes. So he was able to even catch Marcelo Rojo, drop him in the first round of that fight, and, had him in a little bit of trouble. But you see Strader at range, he's very hittable. He doesn't really move his head a lot. And, you saw in that fight with Rojo, he started to get pieced up, knocked out. In his fight, one fight that he lost in the amateur circuit as well, it was a TKO loss. So I just feel like Montel Jackson on the feet is going to be able to use his range advantage, distance control, long combinations, and just dominate the fight. Strader, I don't see him being able to hit the takedowns. I don't see his, awkward striking style being too much of a danger for a guy like Montel Jackson. But Strader, I mean, he has a puncher's chance, and that's about it. So the pick for me is going to be Montel Jackson here, and I probably get it done inside the distance. And in this next one, this is a close fight here with Trevin Giles taking on Roman Dolidze. And we have Roman Dolidze is going to be dropping down to 185 pounds for the first time in his career, which I am a little bit worried about that because I feel like he's a big light heavyweight, and I actually liked him better at light heavyweight because I feel like he's going to be at a big speed disadvantage down at middleweight, and I don't really think that, necessarily he has the wrestling to, really make it a good move and use his grappling in terms of, just using his size here. I just feel like Trevin Giles on the feet is going to have a big speed advantage, but Dolidze, he throws some decent kicks, and he has some solid boxing as well, good slips, good counters. He has good tight hooks, overhands, uppercuts, and, he'll throw some nice body kicks, high kicks as well, but a little bit slow. You saw in his last fight with John Alon that if you extend the combinations, you pressure this guy, he is a little bit low volume, he's a little bit hittable, and I do feel like Trevin Giles with the jab will be able to probably touch up Roman Dolidze quite a bit. And, in terms of the grappling, Dolidze does time decent double legs. He has good body locks as well. And I see that as what he's going to try to do here. I think he's going to try to get Trevin Giles against the fence, control him there, try to take him down with the body lock, or, time a reactive double leg, take him down in the center of the cage. And when he takes guys down, you saw like when he took down John Alon. He wasn't super dangerous on top, but he will attack with those leg locks, which I don't necessarily see him getting one of those against Trevin Giles, but he possibly could, and he is an ADCC guy, so he's a decent grappler. Trevin Giles, though, I feel like he's a good grappler in his own right. He's powerful, he's strong, he's fought at 205 himself, but I do kind of worry. I think that is the path to victory for Dolidze is getting Giles against the cage, controlling him, kneeing him to the body, making it dirty, hitting some takedowns, but both these guys have gassing issues. They've gotten tired in the past, or more Trevin Giles. I'm more saying that about Roman because of the fact that he's going to cut down to 185 here, and I just feel like Giles is going to throw more output. I don't necessarily know if Roman is going to be able to take him down consistently, and I think that Trevin is going to be a lot faster and better on the feet, so I'm going to actually go with Trevin Giles in this one. I think he's going to be able to get this fight done and just win 3 in a row in the UFC. But if Roman Dolidze, who's undefeated, goes in here and uses his size to get the takedown or looks like a different beast at 185, maybe his speed will increase. But I'm more on the side that maybe he's going to slow down in the later rounds. Maybe he's going to be a little bit slower than these guys at 185. So if Dolidze looks good, then maybe I'll have to reevaluate him moving forward in this weight class. But for now, I'm going to pick Trevin Giles to get the win here. This is a great fight coming up right here. I feel like it should be on the main card, but we have Grant Dawson taking on Leonardo Santos, and Grant Dawson, he enters the favorite in the spot. He's one of the better prospects in the UFC, 4-0 so far through 4 fights, and he's definitely in for a fight, though, in this matchup, man. He's taking on a guy that's undefeated in UFC, but he's also moving up to lightweight here. He's missed featherweight the last 2 times he tried to, so he's decided to move up to 155 pounds. And he's going to be taking on a bad motherfucker, man, in Leonardo Santos, who's, making his 8th UFC appearance. And, he still has been undefeated so far. No one has been able to solve the puzzle. He's never lost in the UFC, 7-0-1, 6 consecutive wins. And he definitely is an unsung fighter in the division. But unfortunately for him, he's 41 years old. He's had long periods of inactivity, and it's kind of plagued his career. He kind of has taken this role of a gatekeeper to the top 15, which sucks for him, but an impressive win over Dawson would have to give him a good matchup, a top 10 fighter next, in my opinion. And when you look at this matchup, it's interesting because Grant Dawson, he's a wrestler, he likes to grind, and Leonardo Santos obviously is one of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the UFC. And Leo, he's been a bit of a wrestler killer. I mean, you've seen him beat a strong wrestler in his last fight in Roman Bogotov, defend a lot of the takedowns against the cage. He defeated Kevin Lee, Efrain Escudero. He did have a fight with Norman Park where he did go to a draw in that fight. So, but, looking at this fight with Grant Dawson, I do think at range, Leo's going to have a huge advantage. Leonardo Santos, he's going to have a reach advantage, height advantage, and he's one of the better distance strikers in the division. We've seen that straight right hand on multiple highlight reels, man, where he's knocking guys dead, like dropping Kevin Lee, his last fight with Roman Bogotov. He's throwing 5-6 of them in a row, really rocking the guy badly. The knockout of Stevie Ray. So if he could time that straight right hand, he could put you to sleep. And he's also has a real nice, body kick as well. Front kicks up the middle, round kicks to the body. He does a good job of throwing that rear uppercut. I feel like he's going to be looking for that in this fight. He, does a good job when he can keep the range and make it a pretty fight on the feet. He has good leg kicks. So I do feel like in that middle range, when Grant Dawson's trying to close that distance, that's where Leo's going to have his opportunity to finish the fight with the straight right hand, with that rear uppercut, even with the, high kick or if he can hurt him to the body. But, Grant Dawson is improving his striking. He doesn't really have great striking, but, he has a good jab. He cuts the cage off well. He throws those nice knees up the middle, and those are pretty dangerous. He flashes them. He gets real high. He can bring the knee up real high, and he just does a good job of cutting off the cage and getting guys' backs near the fence where he can shoot in on the takedown, get him to the ground, grind him against the cage, and that's going to be the tail of the fight here. Leonardo Santos, he's super difficult to take down, man. He has that Novo Uniao defense. And you saw in his fight with Bogotov, he defended almost every single takedown attempt against the cage. very good balance. He's very just a tall guy, but he does have a tendency to get tired and rest against the cage. He'll just sit there. He'll allow guys to rack up control time in that position. And for Grant Dawson, he has a gas tank that doesn't slow down. So I feel like in this fight, Leonardo is going to have to get it done in that middle range. In the grappling, unless he could somehow get on top in a scramble, I feel like Dawson is going to control that, even though Leo has that real good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu base. But, having said that, like I said, if Leo can get on top in a scramble and have some time to work, he could finish the fight, man. I mean, he has an excellent arm triangle, super fluid passer, and, he's just one of the best guys on the ground in top position in the UFC. But, we have seen him, like I said, controlled against the cage. We've seen him even taken down in certain fights. If you even go way back to his fight with William Macario, his first fight in the UFC, he, was getting taken down, hit with some big ground and pound. And I feel like Dawson, early on, I mean, I wouldn't just jump into this guy's guard, obviously, when they're super dry in the first minute of the fight. But, close that distance like you always do. Get him against the cage, grind on him, knee him to the body, get him a little bit tired. And, I mean, like I said, you always have to be careful in that middle range. I wouldn't stay at range and strike with this guy, because if you do that, I think Leo's going to line him up and take him out. But, we've seen, pass for Leo, because, Mike Trizano, he had success with the jab. He had success with the crosses against Grant Dawson. And Leo Santos is just going to have to do the same thing. I just don't know if his footwork is good enough to just keep Grant Dawson off of him. And Dawson is shown to be pretty durable. His one finished loss was with elbow to the side of head when he was in on a takedown against a cage. But even that was a questionable stoppage. And I feel like Dawson, he does have a really good chin. So it's going to have to be a perfect shot for Leo to line him up and take him out. And I just feel like after that first round, Grant Dawson is going to be the guy with the bigger gas tank. He's going to probably be the guy that's able to put Leo on the cage and probably even take him down in those later rounds, and maybe even, hit him with some big ground and pound and, make a statement, show that, he wants to get a win here and be one of these guys at 155 that's, remembered, because either guy that gets a win here, I think, is going to get a big fight next time. But I'm actually going to go with Grant Dawson. I think he's going to be the first guy to break the unbeaten streak of Leo Santos in the UFC, unfortunately. Big fan of Leo Santos. I think he's a real fun fighter to watch. He's dangerous, man. I mean, real good at range, really good jiu-jitsu finisher, but I just feel like Grant Dawson is going to be able to wear him down and, eventually get his grappling going and do his thing. So, going to go with Grant Dawson in this fight. With this next fight, I've broken it down a couple times already, so not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we have Marion Reneau versus Macy Chiasson being rescheduled for this fight. And Macy, this is her chance to crack the rankings here, 4-1, and she's looked good in certain spots, not so good in other spots, so, she's kind of an inconsistent fighter, so I would never, lay the chalk on her at that line against a tough veteran like Marion Reneau. But, Marion Reneau, obviously 43 years old. It's still amazing that she's able to compete at this level, almost 44. But eventually all things do have to come to an end, and she's lost 3 fights in a row. She hasn't really had that performance yet, though, that, you could say she's really fallen off. She's dropped some competitive decisions. And, looking at this fight, I mean, Macy Chiasson, like I said, to me, she hasn't been super impressive. Her fight with Pannie Kianzad was probably her best performance up at 185. And she was able to run through some low-level competition like Gina Mazzani, Sarah Moras, but we saw her struggle against a girl like Lena Landsberg, lost a round before finishing her. She, had a decent fight with Shayna Young, where Shayna Young, in my opinion, was probably winning the striking, but threw too many naked kicks, got taken down, and Chiasson was able to really dominate on top. Marion Reneau is a fighter that is going to be a step above the girls that she's fought in the past. She's obviously been in there with a much better competition of the two. And on the feet, she's going to have the boxing advantage. She's going to have probably the hand speed advantage. And she has pop in her punches. I definitely see her having the power edge. At range, though, Reneau should be faster, sharper. But if Chiasson can get it in the clinch, use her physicality, knees to the body, elbows, I do think, that gas tank doesn't get better with age, and Marion has slowed down in the past. So I think that even though Marion has had some strong third rounds, came back and gotten finishes in the third round, if Macy can make this a super grindy type of fight, I think she could maybe take over a little bit down the stretch. I think Reneau definitely has the better ground game in jiu-jitsu. To me, Marion is the better fighter. I mean, she's the better striking, better jiu-jitsu. It's just one of those cases where it's this smaller athlete in there. It's the stronger girl in the clinch. And Chiasson just has to let hard strikes go to close that distance, get in the clinch. And I think she's probably going to be able to just make it boring, use her size, maul Reneau against the cage. Obviously Reneau's 43, so if she lands some hard body shots, Reneau will slow down. You can never count Marion out. She does have 4 finishes in the UFC, but I just feel like Macy will probably be able to go in here, make it boring, and get it done. So I'm going to pick Macy Chiasson to get the win. And up next here, we have Cheyanne taking on Montserrat Ruiz in a pretty decent fight to kick off the main card. And the first thing you have to say here overall is that, Cheyanne is going to be fighting on the same card as her husband, JP Baez. So I'm curious, all you UFC nerds out there, put down in the comments, is this the first time that a husband and wife are debuting on the same card? I know, for instance, Montana De La Rosa has fought on the same card with Mark De La Rosa, but has there ever been 2 debuting people on the same card? Because that's pretty interesting. But, Cheyanne Baez, in my opinion, she impressed on the Contender Series. She's looking like she can maybe make an impact in the UFC. She's 5-1. And, she's a Taekwondo striker, good movement. She's going to be the much faster fighter in this fight. And she needs to try to use her jabs, her crosses, her low kicks. She has a good jab, good lead hook, good front kicks up the middle, good round kicks to the body. Very aggressive. She comes forward, throws nice combos. She throws shots behind the jab or behind the left hook usually. Throws hard. She has pop in her hands. In this fight, I feel like she needs to try to be a little bit more technical. Walk Ruiz in the shots, chop the legs, not trade in the pocket as much. Sometimes she can be a little bit emotional in there, and she's going to most likely, I don't know, it's going to be close in the power, but I feel like, Ruiz is super tough, durable. There's no reason to make it a closer fight than it needs to be. Keep the range, use your superior footwork, the long strikes. And Baez is a solid grappler as well. She's strong in the clinch, she digs underhooks, she has good trips, good head and arm throws, good reactive double leg, and on top she isn't bad. She tries to Turk the legs, she has good mounts, good back takes, and she'll posture up, though, hard ground and pound. As far as submissions go, she isn't really a submission threat. She's been taken down as well in some of her early MMA fights. She isn't really good off of her back. She will throw up some arm bars, but being at Fortis, I'm sure she's improving her get-ups, and in her last fight, she was able to, neutralize the grappling of a girl in Hillary Rose that likes to take girls down. And Baez is super tough. She's definitely not part of the quick tap club. Just check her fight with Vanessa Demopoulos. She broke her arm trying to post after a takedown. She was literally holding her arm trying to hide it from the referee, keep fighting, and she dominated Vanessa Demopoulos in the grappling, which is pretty impressive. She was able to throw her around in a clinch, and, she kind of negated the wrestling, or the grappling. She didn't want to go to the bottom, but dominated the wrestling. And, in this fight, she's not going to have nearly that same physicality advantage that she had against Vanessa Demopoulos, though. I think Baez should more avoid grappling here because I see Ruiz as the stronger physically, even though they're both very physically strong. Baez has solid takedown defense overall, though. I think she's going to be able to defend those head and arm throws that Ruiz likes, and she has good cardio. She has a mean streak about her. For Montserrat Ruiz, she's getting this late notice replacement shot here. She's fighting instead of Kay Hansen. And she deserves the opportunity. She's 9-1. She trains at a great gym in Kings MMA. She's also a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu girl. Her record is a little bit padded. She really has not fought a lot of good competition. But she's fought good competition since coming to Invicta in her last few fights. Her first 8 fights, were all in Mexico. And they were all against low-level girls. Since coming to Invicta, she's went 1-1. She lost to Danielle Taylor. She beat Janisa Maranjan. And Ruiz, she's a pretty prototypical wrestler boxer. She has a very short frame, though. She's only 5 feet tall, and that does cause her issues. She isn't the fastest or most athletic girl, and she has trouble closing the distance. She does have decent head movement, forward pressure. She keeps a high guard. She works her way into the pocket, and she tries to land that left hook or straight or overhand right. She has decent combinations in the pocket. She has some power in her hands, and she is a strong girl. That, along with her cardio and her pressure, are probably her best assets. Isn't a big kicker. Sometimes she will throw some leg kicks out there, but not much outside of that. And she's very easy to see coming. She doesn't use a lot of feints. She's a plotter. She does keep her guard high. She has decent defense, but shots do get through. She's hittable. The body's open. Daniel Taylor was able to use her combinations and her jab to keep Ruiz on the outside, win a decision. Taylor was also able to land some heavy low kicks on Ruiz. Ruiz does not check kicks. So, she's decent offensively if you stand and trade with her, but definitely has a lot of deficiencies in terms of her footwork, her, defense of combinations in the jab. She kind of is a girl that likes to just shell up. So Montserrat Ruiz, she's a grappler. Her striking game is kind of based around backing girls up so she can clinch up and take them down. She doesn't really have a great wrestling game, though. She's one of these girls that loves the head and arm throw. She has nice submissions from that scarf hold position when she gets the takedowns. She'll try to hit that kind of, choke that Alexia Oleinik likes to use. She has a good arm bar from that position. But at the high levels, I just don't think it's going to work very often. She will look for trips, body locks against the cage, but isn't very proficient with that. She has heart, and she will go for it. But, in terms of this matchup, Cheyanne Bays, I feel like, is the better fighter. In her last fight, though, Bays had no regard for her opponent's striking and power. And she has that kind of confidence and needs to be a bit smarter in this fight. Going to war with a tough, powerful Mexican chick is not the smartest route to go. She needs to use her footwork, long strikes, movement, low kicks, mix in some takedowns if they're there. I haven't seen Montserrat have to defend takedowns or be off of her back at all, so maybe that's a weakness in her game, maybe it's not, but test that. Ultimately, I would keep the fight standing, though, mostly because Ruiz did show some decent submission ability. She may have some tricks off bottom, and she should, Bays that is, be the faster girl. She should throw more volume. She should land more. I do think this fight will be competitive in parts because both girls have power, decent boxing, and they're willing to throw down. Ruiz has a chance if this becomes a pure firefight, or if she can maybe get on top, but Bays has more ways to win. If she fights to her potential, she will win. Bays isn't going to break under the forward pressure or power shots of Ruiz, and I think she's going to be the superior girl in the wrestling aspect. So, to me, Cheyanne Bays should get this one done, and I'm going to pick Cheyanne Bays to get the victory. And up next here, we have a matchup of two veterans here with Max Griffin taking on Kenan Song. And Max Griffin, primarily a boxer, he's technical, he keeps a high guard, obviously, good movement. He has a long reach for the division, and that's probably his best advantage because his jab is probably his best weapon. Throws a lot of 1-2s. He mixes up the target. You'll go body head with the jab with the 1-2, and he likes to throw the left hook sometimes. You'll throw that straight right left hook combination. We've seen him drop Mike Perry with that, and he's decent in terms of his timing, but I don't feel like he's the fastest guy. I think the jab kind of bails him out a lot. He has some power in his hands if he can connect clean, but hasn't shown much fight-ending power in the UFC. Doesn't really have a lot of variety in his striking. He will throw some low kicks. I think he should go to the low kicks versus Song. I've also seen him throw a couple high kicks out there, but not the best kicker. He's shown some nice knees up the middle, and his defense is solid. He moves well, he stays technical, but he does slow down, makes mental errors as the fight goes on, and has a tendency to get goated in brawls at times. There's a lot of crazy fights in the UFC. I don't think Griffin is the fastest fighter as it is, so when he slows down, his opponents really get his big speed advantage over him. One thing about Max, though, is he could take it, man. He has a crazy chin. The only time he's ever been finished was via ground and pound against Colby Covington. And he did earn his second UFC knockout in his last fight, but more due to a freak injury where, his opponent had his ear almost fall off. And Griffin does have 8 knockouts in his 16 wins, though. And I feel like in this fight, he's going to have a big grappling advantage and should look to mix it up in this fight. He's improved his wrestling. He's used it to help him win fights in the past. And against Kenan Song, that's a clear hole in Song's game. He should try to exploit. Griffin has good double legs, good trips. He does a good job getting that double underhook position against the cage and working you from there. When he gets on top, he really isn't super dangerous. Not a submission threat, but he has good control. He could sit in half guard, land short shots, and if he takes Song down, he should be able to control him. He should also have a big cardio edge in this fight. He usually pushes a good pace. For Kenan Song, he's a dangerous striker. He's obviously flashed power in the past. He has a good right hand. He knocks guys out with that. He has a good kick as well. He has a nice lead leg kicks to the body, to the head. I do think Song is probably faster. His defense on the feet, though, is not good. He doesn't move his head. His chin is right in the air. He holds his hands low. He doesn't really check kicks, and Kenan Song is not a very good grappler. I mean, his takedown defense is not very good. He likes to attack guillotine instead of the takedown, or instead of defend the takedown. And historically, he's been very easy to take down. He doesn't really react the best to forward pressure either. He likes to clinch up with guys, and doing that does lead to him getting taken down even more. And once you get Song on the mat, he isn't very good. Just tries to explode back to his feet. Doesn't really have technical get-ups. And he slows down in fights. So I feel like this fight being in the U.S. as well as a hindrance to Kenan Song. The layoff is hindrance to Kenan Song. And Max Griffin is never a guy that is fully trustworthy. But I just feel like in terms of this fight, his jab is going to be able to pay dividends for him. He should work the legs and just try to take this guy down. If you take him down, you'll get him tired. Kenan Song doesn't have a good gas tank. And you'll be able to win the fight and just control him and probably, coast to a decision. So I'm going to go with Max Griffin here. I think he's going to be able to get it done and probably, win a decision pretty easily. I like this fight right here. This is a good fight with Gustavo Lopez taking on Adrian Yanez. And a significant step up in competition for Yanez. I know the guy is everyone's flavor of the week, but he's been doing a lot of can crushing lately. I mean, Warren Stewart, 11-29. Michael Gonzalez, 9-7. Even in his fights with Brady Huang and Victor Rodriguez, even though those fighters had good records, I don't think they had great skill sets. In his last two fights where he's fought close to or UFC level competition, he's went to split decision. And he did lose a split decision to Miles Johns. He won a split decision over Kyle Estrada. And all three of his losses have come against grapplers in Miles Johns, Domingo Pilarte, and Levi Moles. But Adrian Yanez, he's a sick boxer, man. He's more of a counter striker, but great job cutting off the cage, backing opponents up. He likes to touch fighters on the outside with jabs or straights. He doesn't put a lot of power on them. And he also holds his hands very low in the pocket. And he does all this to get fighters to throw so he can use his counters. Excellent pocket boxer. He throws heavy counter combinations. Vicious counter straight right left hook combo. And he does a good job of countering with the straight right hand at range. He can be a bit hittable at times. He plays that dangerous game with his hands low in the pocket, but he's good at it. He does have to be a bit careful with Gustavo Lopez, who's a power puncher. And he could start a little bit slow in fights. He needs to be careful in that first round. Gustavo Lopez's striking isn't great, but he's quick, he's shifty. He has the threat of the takedown, and he does a good job of feinting it and then blitzing in with that left hook. He likes to throw the left hook straight right hand combination, and he also does a good job of staying his ground in the pocket. He has good eyes. He'll slip in return with a big overhand right, big hook, and he has big power in both hands. So he has the ability to kind of back guys off with his, with his power. And he sat down his last few opponents in the first round. I mean, he's been able to drop guys like Anthony Burchak, like Joey Ruque, who else has he fought that he's knocked out in the first round? Like Jose Alday. So he's been doing a good job recently of getting that done, hurting guys big early. He doesn't really throw a ton of kicks, though, and I've even seen him countered off his kicks, so I don't feel like he should throw a lot of kicks in this fight. Just isn't a very good kicker. He doesn't throw a lot of combination either, which I feel like he should do more in this fight because he needs to throw more than one in the pocket. Try to catch Yanez with his hands down. Lopez, he's going to be the superior grappler in this fight. He has a very good double leg, and he needs to make this a grappling heavy fight. I've seen Yanez controlled against the cage. I've seen him taken down in the past, and I could see Lopez, trying to just control him against the cage early on, wear him down, and then get takedowns late. If Gustavo Lopez can get on top, I mean, the guy's a huge guy for the weight class. He usually goes in the octagon at, I think 155, 160 pounds, and he's extremely heavy when he gets on top. He's one of these guys that's been training with Brian Caraway at Extreme Couture, so has a real good base, and he'll throw heavy ground and pound. Does a good job hunting the guillotine, as fighters try to get up, or he will take the back, and he's finished almost all his fights in top position, 11 of his 12 wins via finish. Yanez, he hasn't really, in my opinion, seen someone with the top game of Gustavo Lopez in his MMA career. He's shown good get-ups, though, and he's pretty hard to take down. Another advantage I think that Yanez has will be that he has a huge cardio edge here. He's had a couple 5-round fights. He stayed fresh all 5. I've seen Lopez, on the other hand, slow down a bit after, the first round. And I think the first round would be close with Lopez potentially getting a takedown. And if he does that, he could get the win depending how much damage he can put on Yanez. I could also see Yanez stuffing all the shots early too, but it being a bit more competitive on the feet, Lopez shooting more. I think the first round will be won by Lopez or be a more competitive round, but after that, once Yanez gets his rhythm, his timing, he could start to pick him apart on the feet, put damage on him, and possibly even finish Lopez if he gets tired late. This is a competitive fight, but I just think Yanez is too slick on the feet. He has good enough takedown defense. He has good get-ups. He has the cardio edge. Lopez, he has a good chin, but he's just too hittable for me. I do think the line is a little bit wide. I would never play Adrian Yanez at that number. I think that the value is probably more on Gustavo Lopez, but as a pure pick, I'm going to pick Adrian Yanez here. And in the co-main event, we have a real interesting fight. We obviously have a real traditional clash of styles with a striker versus grappler fight here. And Gregor Gillespie, I mean, he's making his return after that brutal knockout at the hands of Kevin Lee, where, that head kick was probably one of the best knockouts in UFC history. So, that's a lot to come back from. We have to, monitor his chin. But, I do feel like, obviously, this guy has one of the best skill sets in the UFC in terms of his wrestling and his grappling. And for Brad Riddell, he's another one of these city kickboxing guys. He has, a long career in Muay Thai. I believe he has a good record in kickboxing and Muay Thai as well. And obviously he's transitioned to MMA. He's done fairly well. He's 3-0 in the UFC. But I feel like his 3 fights in the UFC have not been extremely impressive. He's gotten taken down quite a bit in those fights. And, if you watch his fight, for instance, with Jamie Malarkey, that was a war where he got hurt, Malarkey got hurt. Both guys got takedowns. His fight with Magomed Mustafayev, he was taken down quite a bit in that fight, controlled against the cage. Even in his fight against Alex de Silva, there was a lot of grappling in that fight. He dropped the first round. And against a guy like Gregor Gillespie, his wrestling is going to have to be a lot sharper than it was in those fights. And I just like this matchup a lot for Gillespie on paper, though, man. Gillespie, his striking is obviously not very good. He's a decent boxer. He was landing some nice jabs, some decent hooks and crosses against Kevin Lee. But, his defense in terms of the boxing is not very good. He drops his hands after that jab. He, kind of tends to back up with his head straight in the air. So Brad Riddell is going to be able to get his reads if he can keep it on the feet and probably outstrike the guy. But, man, Gregor Gillespie, I don't think he's going to box with Brad Riddell like he did with Kevin Lee. I think he's going to be shooting for that low single. And, man, he has one of the best single legs in the game, man. He has so many different variations off the single leg takedown. And, once he gets that single leg, man, he does an excellent job of either taking the back or just moving into, right into a takedown, getting you to the ground. And he does a great job of, once he can take you to the ground, just knowing exactly where you're going to scramble. This guy is excellent on top, man. He gets that wrestling right position. It's super hard to get out from under. And I've seen, Magomed Mustafayev do a good job of controlling Brad Riddell in that wrestling right position, which I feel like Gregor Gillespie is going to have success with all day there. If Gregor Gillespie can't get a takedown in this fight, I'm going to be very surprised, because you see Brad Riddell getting taken down by much lesser guys, and he engages in a lot of grappling, man. The guy goes for offensive takedowns himself. He re-engages in the clinch. He tends to really just like to wrestle in certain fights, and I feel like his Muay Thai base, where he's very flat-footed, he also likes to come forward, be the boss in there. I think that's going to play to his disadvantage. It's not like he's going to be moving around on the outside trying to pot shot a guy like, a Gregor Gillespie. I don't necessarily think he's going to be able to get his kicking game fully going either, because he's going to have the fear of the takedown as well. And ultimately, I just think Gregor is going to hit this single leg, get on top, dominate, man. We've seen these guys that he's been able to get on top of, Vince Pichel, Yancy Medeiros. None of these guys have been able to do anything on bottom. He's just so excellent at knowing exactly where you're going to go. His positioning and control on top is just phenomenal. And, a lot of these guys that Brad Riddell beats, he wears them down with the forward pressure. He puts damage on them, and they slow down. But Gregor Gillespie is absolutely relentless, man. His cardio is on another level. He can grind for the full 15 minutes or 25 minutes. And I feel like he's one of these guys that, even though Brad Riddell has these nice combinations, he could strike on the feet. I mean, none of that is going to matter because he's just going to take him down at will. He's not going to really engage in any of that. He is very smart. He has good fight IQ. And I feel like his last fight is just a super hard matchup. I mean, he's facing a guy that's another elite wrestler that had a big striking advantage on him, was a much bigger fighter than him. And I feel like with Brad Riddell, they're going to be more similarly sized. They're the same height. And I feel like he's just going to be able to take him down and dominate on top. I don't really see much else there. This is not a real, super in-depth breakdown because I just feel like it's pretty easy to break down. I think Gregor Gillespie is going to be able to hit the takedown. If Brad Riddell works back up to his feet, I think Gillespie will control him in that wrestling ride type position, mat return him. I don't see Brad Riddell, being able to keep the range. He's not one of these guys that really does that. He doesn't maintain distance super well. He likes to get in the pocket, and in the pocket, I mean, he's very tight. So Gregor does have to be very careful. I mean, he can't exchange with the guy, but he's not going to do that. So more than likely, I think Gregor Gillespie is going to get the win here, and I think it's going to be a pretty dominant victory for Gillespie. And finally, in the main event here, we got a real interesting fight with Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland, and obviously, Kevin Holland is trying to solve that riddle and, pass that, gatekeeper and Derek Brunson. And Derek Brunson is trying to shed that role, so he doesn't necessarily want to be called a gatekeeper anymore. But, man, Kevin Holland, he skyrocketed to his first UFC main event. He went 5-0 in 2020 and 4 finishes. So, I mean, his most recent, it was incredible, the finish he had over Jacare Souza. He's already had issues with the champion, and he's a great talker. So, with the win, he'll position himself, in my opinion, probably one fight away from a title shot. For Derek Brunson, he's had a career resurgence since going to work with Henry Hooft in Florida. And he's gone 3-0 since making the move there. And each subsequent win has been more impressive than the last. He's been able to beat Ian Heinisch, Edmund Shabazian, and he's cashed as an underdog back-to-back times. He's only lost to former UFC champions or all-time great fighters. The guy is a very underrated fighter. In my opinion, obviously his striking and his composure has just leveled up since moving to Henry Hooft. We saw that in his fight with Edmund Shabazian. He wasn't really blitzing until he had the guy back to the cage. He had a high guard. He was throwing a lot more kicks, front kicks up the middle, low kicks. And he's a good kicker. He was throwing hard kicks. And he was doing a good job cutting off the cage. And when he would back Edmund Shabazian up, he was doing a good job of either level changing into that body lock or coming with that straight left hand and blitzing him with 1-2 straight left hands in a row, tagging him. And he was doing a good job of mixing it up, throwing the left hand, then closing the distance, getting the body lock. And once he started to wear on Edmund with that game plan, get him tired, he started to get the takedowns. And when he got on top, he threw thunderous ground and pound at the end of the second round. I feel like probably could have been stopped at that point, but they let it go into the third round. Brunson landed some more shots really quickly into that third round. Edmund looked like he didn't really want to be there anymore, and they quickly finished the fight in that third round. But against a guy like Kevin Holland, I do think it's going to be a little bit tougher. I mean, Holland, he's never been finished by strikes in his entire career. He's only been finished a couple times, one time by Brendan Allen on a very short notice fight. He also got submitted by Rafael Lovato Jr., whereas in this fight, I do feel like in terms of the cardio, he's shown, some bad cardio in the past. But he's one of these guys, obviously, where he jumps in, he takes these fights on very short notice. Who knows what he's doing, what he's been training. And, this fight, he's had a long time to prepare. He's had a main event spot. He's had, I think, 6-8 weeks of notice. And I've heard him say he's doing strength and conditioning. He's been working a lot more in the gym. So I feel like his cardio is going to be leveled up in this fight in terms of I don't think he's going to slow down like he did against Brendan Allen so significantly. Or I just feel like he's going to have good enough cardio to at least, keep it going for 5 rounds here. But, the issue with Kevin Holland is just the guy can't stop the takedown. He really struggles with that. He doesn't even really try to defend takedowns. And on the feet, he throws a lot of real weird kicks. He can get out of position and kind of off balance and get taken down that way. But, he needs to be a lot more, in my opinion, in this fight. Ditch all that awkwardness, like the stupid kicks, the side kicks, the karate chops, the slaps to the side of the face, and try to just use that right hand, man. Try to use that laser right hand, your reach, the jab. Try to keep Brunson on the outside. Time body kicks, time leg kicks. And be technical on the feet. Be a sniper. Don't, try to be a showman, throw all these wild kicks and, jumping attacks, spinning attacks. Just be super technical. But, we've seen in the past with Kevin Holland, he struggles with that forward pressure. We've seen guys like Gerald Mearshart back him straight up to the cage, Thiago Santos. A lot of guys have been able to take him down really quickly in the first round. And his takedown defense, just like I said, just hasn't been holding up in these fights. But, he's a guy that has real good jiu-jitsu. He's a good scrambler. He's long. Does a good job of just getting in these awkward positions where he could sweep you. Or he could land the crazy ground and pound like he did versus Jacare. But I feel like Jacare, his chin might be a little bit gone, man, because that was a little bit wild to get hurt that badly from that position. And we've seen in other fights where, guys aren't playing jiu-jitsu with Kevin Holland, like Gerald Mearshart, where he's trying to, look for submissions, progress to the back, progress to the mount, or even Jacare. That was kind of more of a freak thing, in my opinion. But, for instance, guys like Thiago Santos, where they're trying to just pressure, throw big ground and pound, stick heavy on top. Brendan Allen, they're able to have more success, and I feel like that's what Derek Brunson should do. He definitely needs to, obviously, in my opinion, early on, just keep it in the clinch against the cage. Don't even try to go to the takedown that heavily. Use your, striking forward pressure to cut off the cage. Don't throw a lot of those kicks, those front kicks, because I feel like Holland is going to have that laser right hand to counter with. And early on in that first round, 4 of the 5 knockout losses for Brunson are in the first round. All of Brunson's knockout wins are in the first round. So that's going to be when he's the most vulnerable and the most dangerous. But, I just feel like if he holsters the kicks, he's going to be less hard to counter. He's going to have to keep that same high guard like he's been doing in his recent fights. Not blitz in from the outside wildly. Cut the cage off. Use your jab. Use your straight punches, just your feinting of the level changes, your blitzes with that left hand. Once you get into that position against the cage, get in that body lock, work him from there. And I feel like if he can, work him in that clinch, get him a little bit tired, then take him down, he should be able to control, wear on him with that ground and pound. He needs to obviously be very wary of that guard of Kevin Holland. The guy has really good triangles, arm bars, sweeps. He can, finish you with ground and pound from bottom. Obviously, we've seen him do that in his last fight. But if Brunson just stays heavy, just stays very tight in terms of defending the submissions, he's never been submitted in his career, and just waits for his time to let off that big ground and pound, I feel like he should be able to control the fight, wear on Kevin Holland. And this fight is kind of scary for me for Derek Brunson because, like I said, I do think Holland is going to come in better shape. A lot of people think he's going to slow down and Brunson might be able to knock him out like he did Shabazian, but I don't necessarily agree with that, and that does give Holland the opportunity of 5 rounds to either get a finish on the ground or get a finish on the feet. And I do feel like if Holland could sweep and get on top somehow, he probably is going to have a big advantage in that aspect. He could probably land big ground and pound, get him out of there, maybe even find a submission. But, I feel like Brunson should probably be the favorite in this fight, honestly. We haven't seen Kevin Holland really prove himself. We saw him did get the win over Jacare Souza. That was a big win, but Jacare's in his 40s. He kind of slowed down significantly, and Brunson is a much stiffer test. This is going to be a fight to prove if Holland is truly an elite middleweight. And I just feel like Brunson, with the forward pressure, the high guard, the more composure that he's gotten since moving to Henry Hooft, he's going to be able to walk down Holland, get him to the back, get his back towards the cage. And once he does that, I think he's going to be able to, get that body lock, get the takedowns, work from either full guard or half guard, stay tight, laying ground and pounds, not do anything crazy, and probably get the victory here. So I'm going to actually go with Derek Brunson here to get it done. But it's not a fight that I'm super confident on either side. So, the main event, it's a good fight. It's a close fight, and I'm going to go with Derek Brunson. So there you have it, guys. That's the breakdown for Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson, UFC Vegas 22. As far as my most confident pick on the card goes, it's going to be Montel Jackson. For the parlay of the week, I'm going to do Gregor Gillespie and Cheyanne Bays. And for my underdog of the week, it's going to be Bruno Silva. So thanks for watching, guys. Once again, like I said, I want to get to 300 likes, so please let's try to make that happen. Hit the like button on this video, and yeah, like always, if you enjoyed it, put a comment down below. Tell me what you think, who you're betting on, what you think of my picks, and I'll be back later on in the week to break down some more fights, and I'll talk to you guys later.